to the special meeting of the City Council on Tuesday, November 7th. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03A3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made relating thereto. Call this meeting to order and roll call. Clerk Meredith.
Mayor Watkins, Vice Mayor Samley,
Here.
Councilmember Eric,
Here.
Councilmember Savage,
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley,
Present.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. It would be my pleasure, Mr. Cooper. So we'll be going into executive session today for two items. Item 1A is Kingman Municipal Airport Development Project. Staff wishes to discuss and take direction regarding a Kingman Municipal Airport Development Project. Staff requests that the council go into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4. And item number B, KDP Partnership Traffic Interchange Development Agreement. Staff wishes to discuss and take direction regarding the KDP Partnership Traffic Interchange Development Agreement. Staff requests that the council go into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A4. Now I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move we go into executive session.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. We are ending our executive session, and we will move on with our meeting. Welcome, everybody, to the City of Kingman City Council meeting for Tuesday, November 7th. Call to order and roll call. Clerk Meredith.
Mayor Watkins is not with us this evening. Vice Mayor Samily.
Here.
Councilmember Eric.
Present.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley.
Present.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Councilmember Ward. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation tonight will be given by Pastor Peter Ernst of the Family Bible Church.
Vice Mayor Samley, I apologize. We do have somebody stepping in for Pastor Ernst this evening, Mr. Cameron McIntosh.
Thank you. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, Pastor Pete is, keep him in your prayers. There's a lot of things going on with Pastor Pete right now. So I am going to be covering for him today. And so before I do the invocation, I ask that you guys bow your heads as I pray tonight, those in front of me and those behind me as well, because every tongue will confess the Lord Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, no matter what. Father, we thank you for your divine providence and giving us the privilege to live here in Kingman, Arizona. And so we give thanks to you as our Creator for life, liberty, and the gospel message of your Son, Christ Jesus. We give thanks to you for watching over us when much of our nation has sought to expel you from our government, our schools, the courts, and even your creation, Lord. Help us this day as decisions are made that affect all of us. I pray that you would open the eyes of those you have placed in authority and help them make wise and righteous decisions for the people of this town. I pray that you would guide them to the only true wisdom, your wisdom, Lord, found in the pages of Holy Scripture, and not in the wisdom of the world that leads men to stray from your commandments and seek after selfish ambitions, ungodly ideals, and agendas that destroy people, families, and nations. I pray that you would cause conviction and repentance in the hearts of those who have raged against you and continue to seek destruction, Lord, as seeking destruction, they're vessels of destruction, Lord, and I pray for nobody to be a vessel of destruction, that they would put their full faith and trust in your Son, Jesus Christ. I pray you also lead them to an understanding of their desperate need for a Savior, for every man and woman will give an account of themselves before you, Lord. Without your Son, Christ Jesus, living and dying in our place, we are all condemned and under your just punishment. Thank you for your begotten Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, who died in the place of guilty sinners to satisfy your wrath against all idolatry and lawlessness. Thank you for your mercy and grace that you show believers who put their full faith and confidence in your Son for the forgiveness of their sins. I humbly pray for the Vice Mayor today, as Mayor Watkins is not here today as well. I pray for the City Council. Lord, I also ask for protection over the police department, the fire department, and all the public servants that you've placed in the City of Kingman. Help us to do better in leaving behind a greater legacy for our children and grandchildren here today. Father, thank you for letting me pray for the council today. I lift up this prayer to you, and I hope you humbly accept it, and it's a sweet aroma in your nostrils, Lord. We thank you, we love you, and we say all this in Jesus Christ's loving name. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03A3 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made. Tonight we have an appointment, 1A on our agenda, the Heritage Preservation Commission appointment. The Heritage Preservation Commission currently has 2 long-term vacancies with a term ending December 31st of 2026. We have 1 application from Amber Sanchez that's been received and provided for review by the council liaison, city manager, and staff. Residency and voter registration status have been verified. Staff recommends the approval or the appointment of Amber Sanchez to the Heritage Preservation Commission for a term ending December 31st, 2026. Clerk Meredith, our liaison for the Heritage Commission.
I'm not sure if it's nobody that's present, then that means it was Councilmember Pat. And they have not met. So there wouldn't have been an opportunity for that person to speak on behalf of the commission.
Yes, Councilor Ward.
Actually, that's my commission.
Ah,
And we haven't,
Councilor Ward.
but I've reviewed the application, and I would make a motion that we accept her onto the Heritage, or appoint her there.
Okay, perfect. We have a motion by Councilor Ward. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to item number 2, awards and recognition. Manager Miller?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. So before you tonight, we have some exciting news. The I-40 Trayport corridor has been in the newspaper lately, but this is really what I would call the crown jewel of our future economic development strategy, and I think it really fits in very nicely with this community and the airport development and such. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call on Terry Curtis, our economic development project manager, who worked very much behind the scenes on this, and she's going to give you a brief presentation on this. Terry?
Thank you. I need the presentation up, or do I did, but I wasn't sure if you guys would have it here. I apologize for not planning far enough ahead on that one. There's nothing else on there.
Okay.
Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm Terry Curtis, Economic Development Department, and we've been working on this I-40 Trayport corridor. In March 2023, the Economic Development Team and the Airport Administration started working with other I-40 partners and our consultant to propose creating a regional infrastructure accelerator program, and I'm going to shorten that to RIA in the future, with the U.S. Department of Transportation. The program is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation's Build America Bureau, and it supports projects that will have significant national and local economic impacts for transportation projects. The partners involved with the RIA are Bernalillo and Sandoval County, New Mexico, the Village of Los Lunas, New Mexico, Winslow, Arizona, partnering with Atlas Global Development Group, the Port of Los Angeles, and Global Logistics Development Partners, GLD for short. They have also joined us. It's Adam Wasserman and Lois Yates that are online with us, just in case afterwards you have questions that they can answer as well. The lead agency here is Bernalillo County in New Mexico. They've acted as an administrator. They've created a cooperative agreement between all the departments and the U.S. Department of Transportation. We started the application in time to get it before the deadline of May 30th, and then we received the designation on October 13th around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm pretty sure you heard me hooping and hollering from the airport because we received this designation. It's such an exciting potential and thing that we're just super excited to see. Other potential partners are private trucking industry, rail service providers, logistic providers, clean energy providers, and risk capital investors. So this map up here, it shows the I-40 corridor. As you can see, there's black lines that come at different intervals. Those are significant because they're spaced out to create fueling hubs at certain distances for clean energy fueling. Sorry. Okay, so what is it? The I-40 Trade Port Corridor seeks to establish a logistics system that will enhance efficiency, cost savings, and the reliability for shippers and logistic companies. The I-40 Trade Port also aims to develop local transportation hubs, create jobs, boost public revenue for economic growth. The transportation hub can include rail. The transportation hubs can include rail transloading areas, truck mobility, clean energy fueling stations, cargo storage, truck transloading areas, and hopefully increase manufacturing and industrial businesses around those hubs. It serves as a model for national cargo investment networks, both public and private interests, with both public and private interests in mind. And GLD Partners estimates that this project is expected to bring about 60,000 direct and indirect jobs to both Arizona and New Mexico. This project will also create infrastructure in key locations. Those transportation hubs are going to be in Kingman, Winslow, Arizona, and the greater Albuquerque, New Mexico area. So the objectives here are to improve the national supply chain system's efficiency, boost economic competitiveness, particularly in our rural areas. It's to decrease traffic, road congestion, and maintenance while enhancing public safety. It encourages, again, those collaborations between public and private sectors. So why the I-40? Well, it's a crucial connection from the Port of Los Angeles, which is the largest seaport in the Western Hemisphere. It's a vital link to transport goods from the Asian markets to the West Coast seaport to the fastest growing U.S. markets in the U.S., which are in Texas and the U.S. South. It's also the fastest growing traffic cargo corridor in existence right now, and it is expected to continue growing. Many supply chains depend on this corridor's efficient operation and direct routes. This RIA designation provides a platform for the corridor partners to collectively seek investments from various U.S. departments for trade port projects. The Build America Bureau can provide extra funds to support corridor with specific project financing, and the corridor partners aim to strengthen their relationships with the U.S. Department of Transportation and anticipate securing additional phases of the RIA program in the future years. This also, again, promotes those private and public partnerships, investments, and opportunities. So the major driving forces here were our proximity to the Port of Los Angeles, our current and future rail opportunities, and the future 730-acre Phase 2 industrial park parcel release from the FAA. We had a lot of support, Arizona support, from Senator Mark Kelly, Senator Kirsten Sinema, Congressman Paul Gosar, Northern Arizona Council of Government, Mojave County Supervisor District 1 Travis Lingenfelter, Mojave County Economic Development, Mojave Community College, Kingman Unified School District, and Laren, just to mention a few. This is my presentation, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to see if I can answer those.
Council?
Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Is this corridor just going from the west coast to the east coast, or are they going to start it from the east coast and meet in the middle?
So it's starting out at the Port of Los Angeles, and it's going right now to Albuquerque. In the next phases, they're hoping to extend that to Amarillo, Texas, which was in my presentation, and I forgot to mention that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Well, this is certainly great news. Thank you for the great presentation. Congrats to the ED team. This is great for our Kingman community, so I appreciate the information tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to the call to the public, comments from the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed to advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The council may not respond to speakers during the call to the public. The council may direct the city manager to study the matter or request that the matter be placed on a future agenda. So with that, our first speaker today is Chuck Watkins. Could you please come forward? You could please state your name and make sure you speak clearly into the mic. Thank
Hi,
you.
I'm Chuck Watkins, and Vice Mayor, City Council. I just wanted to take a moment of your time and just come down to express gratitude. I had an issue with a water meter on one of my properties, and it was an ongoing problem. I finally reached out to Vice Mayor Samley, who got involved immediately. She got our city manager involved quickly, and very quickly it was resolved. And I just wanted to come down to personally take time to thank you. You guys don't get enough thanks from the public. This is how government should run. So I thank you guys for quick and prompt action in resolving my issue. And I thank my local government for listening to me and being an aid to me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I'll call up Mike Godwin. Hi, if you could state your name and speak clearly into the mic, please.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Council. My name is Michael Goodwin. I reside at 470 El Rancho here in Kingman. And I'm here to address the road conditions on our road. I have contacted the road department numerous times, more times than I could even begin to tell you. I am on a first name basis down there with the road department, and I shouldn't be. I do request that they maintain our road. I get it from, I don't want to use names, but I get it from the head of the road department almost every 2 weeks, that he's going to maintain it on a bi-monthly. I would be happy with bi-monthly, but it's tearing our cars up. Cars are ripping up and down the road. That it's ripply. Kids are playing out there, grandkids. We have our grandkids out there. I would really like the council to address our road issue out there. See if there is an allotment for money for that street. I'm under the impression there is not by Jack. I didn't mean to use his name, but is there something out there where we can get on a regular maintenance? This road is terrible. I have put signatures together on the road. All the neighbors up and down there, I've been told that there is no allotment for El Rancho. So I'm just putting it out there that hopefully we can get somebody out there. A little bit of quality control is what I'm looking for. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Manager Miller?
Yes, I just wanted to address, I believe this is the call that we had last week. It's an unfinished road, correct? Yes, and I had put a request into Public Works to have it bladed and then to wet it down to help with that, because there's ruts in it, as I understand. So I just want to let you know, I asked and I spoke to the Public Works Director, and it is being taken care of, or will be taken care of shortly.
Thank you, Manager. All right, Ron Jewett, if you could please come up. Please state your name and speak clearly into the mic.
Ron Jewett, thank you for letting me be here. I've been asked by several people to be here today. I apologize. I've been where you sat, and you guys know I've sat where you sat. The biggest worry they have right now is that Catholic's Charities on Route 66. I know you guys have all heard about it. A letter was sent out by the city manager that I got like a bunch of phone calls on it. Sorry about that. So I guess what they're saying is that they're under ordinance that they can turn that into apartments. And my question is, and maybe I might misunderstand it. Maybe as residents misunderstand it. The first thing is, how can a C3 be turned to residential? I don't know if that's possible, as C3 is part of residential. Haven't read the codes, but usually C means commercial, R means residential. And their whole plan is make it residential. They're going to make it a transitional living place, and not a motel anymore. The second thing is, I think you have a tiger by the tail here. I've checked up on Catholic Charities, and their whole thing is to transport illegal aliens across the nation. That's their whole. That's what their idea is, and if you go online, you'll see that. And they're nice people. I mean, I haven't met them, but I've heard good things about the people who are there. I'm not blaming them. I hate to even talk bad about them. But when I hear about Catholic Charities, it's not impressive to me though that they haven't come in for a change of use permit. They should have to get that for one. The other thing is they've already contacted general contractors about work, because I've been called as a sub to do work there, and I don't think they've had any permits pulled yet. So I just really be careful with these people. I know there's a meeting on November 27th. I plan on being there to talk to Mrs. Rathband and myself and get some questions answered. But they're a big charity. They're funded very heavily by the government, and I just can't imagine that we can allow that kind of thing, because they can have sex offenders there, they can have people out of prison be there for transitional living that close to a school. That's the biggest concern about the neighborhood, is having that. It's okay to have something like that in Kingman, but maybe not so close to a school. You know, that's why I don't want to badmouth Catholic Charities, but that's bad location as far as I'm concerned. Route 66, number one, but that's not going to fly. I know that. You know, but the one thing is commercial to residential, and having that thing so close to a school. Those are the things that the neighbors are all upset about. So I know there might not be anything you can do. I imagine there has to be something. If there's not, I have lawyers in Phoenix that I can look into and see if maybe we can get a more powerful lawyer to look at a big firm to go against this big. You got a giant. You're fighting a giant. I hope you know that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Manager Miller, did you have any comments?
I was going to save it for the end of the meeting, but I will just let the public know and the council, we have organized a meeting so that these types of questions can be addressed at that public meeting. It's not a City of Kingman meeting, it's a public meeting that we are collaborating with Catholic Charities. The town or the city is not a partner on this project in any way. And all I just wanted to make very clear is, without getting into some difficulty with our attorney here, talking about a non-agenda item, I just want to let you know that we've done everything to research this. We don't see anything that our zoning would preclude this from happening.
Thank you, Manager Miller. All right, Diana Hawes, would you please come forward? Would you state your name and speak clearly into the microphone, please?
My name is Deanna Haas. It's spelled Diana, sorry. I just wanted you to put a name with a face because I have emailed all of you, and I just wanted to introduce myself. I am involved with this project with the Route 66 Motel Transitional Living. I'm the one that kind of spearheaded this, getting the awareness out to people. My house is located directly behind the motel. There are school children that walk to and from school behind this place. I have spoken personally with the Catholic Charities folks, and I do have information that I gathered from them, but I just want you to know that I'm the one that's out there getting the information out as much as I possibly can and trying to get them also aware of this meeting on the 27th. So I will do the best I can to get the word out, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me at any time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Council, I'm sure you've had a chance to review items on the consent agenda. Does anybody want to remove anything?
Vice Mayor, I will need to recuse myself from item E.
Okay, removing item E. Anyone else? I would also like to remove item D. All right. With that, we're removing item D and item E. I will entertain a motion to approve items A, B, C, F, and G.
I'll make that motion.
I'll entertain a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, item E. I will entertain, do you need to state your?
Item E?
I'm sorry, E. Oh, you want me to go in order, don't you?
Please.
Just for you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
All right, item D. I removed this because I think it's important that we hear from the fire chief and understand this was a great savings to our budget. So I thought it was appropriate to bring it to the public so that he could talk about the savings to the city. So, Manager Miller?
While the fire chief is walking up, could you read item?
I would
E
love
for
to
me,
read
please?
item
Thank you.
D. Purchase of fire apparatus pumper. The department is seeking approval for the purchase of a fire apparatus pumper in the amount of $899,158.38. This was approved within the fiscal year 2024 budget. This apparatus is being purchased as a demonstration unit while still in production to maximize savings to the city. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. So Fire Chief Yeager is going to give you a brief presentation on this agenda item. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Yeager.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. So I don't have a fancy presentation, but just some numbers. So in perspective, the engine that we're hopefully going to purchase today, one of our neighboring cities just ordered one for 1.12 million, not upfitted, so no equipment, and then also tax. So we were able to really take advantage of this demo model, which is identical to the last ladder truck that you purchased through that same company for this price. This price also includes all the upfitting and the tax. So when we hopefully receive it after tonight, it'll be ready to go minus personnel and equipment. So huge savings there. The big savings that we have is if we ordered an engine tonight, it's a 48-month build. So we would, again, if you're gracious tonight, this unit will be delivered, we're estimating sometime in December for use. So again, a lot of savings. It is a demo model. However, it's never been demoed other than their showroom floor. So we're pretty excited to be able to get in on the opportunity to save some money and get a quicker replacement piece of equipment.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Chief? I just had one question. Is this in addition to, or are we replacing?
So we're replacing an aging unit it's past its life, and so we will be replacing. This unit will go to Station 2, 221, and then that engine, we kind of move them around to get the best use out of them. So the engine at Station 2 will in turn come down here. So the new engine will be placed at Station 2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we purchase, item D, purchase of fire apparatus pumper.
I'll make that motion. Oh, did you make the motion?
I did make the motion.
I'll make the second.
Thank you for your second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, item E, UES easement request at APN 320-04-047F for aloe fiber facility. Unisource Energy Services Incorporated, UES, is engineering a job to upgrade and expand its electric facilities. The company is seeking permission from the City of Kingman via the attached easement agreement to place its electric facilities across City of Kingman owned property, as shown and described in Exhibits A and B of the attached document. The easement request will encompass Unisource Electric's underground electric conductor, sectionalizing cabinet, and 2 pad mount transformers. These facilities will supply aloe fibers to separate power source, service panels with single-phase and 3-phase electric power. All right,
I will be removing myself from this because I have a conflict of interest.
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item E.
I'll second.
I need a motion.
I'll motion.
Perfect. I'll take a second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, moving on to old business. Resolution number 5475, adopt a short-term rental and vacation rental permit application fee. A notice of intent to adopt a short-term rental and vacation rental permit application fee in the amount of $60 was approved by the City Council on September 5th, 2023. Pursuant to ARS 9-499.15, the notice of intent and supporting report were posted to the city's website for at least 60 days. If approved, the fee will go into effect on November 8th, 2023. It is estimated that the fee will generate approximately $8,000 annually in the general fund. Staff recommends approval. Manager Miller?
Yes, Mayor and Council. So as you're aware, short-term rentals have caused a number of issues for cities around the state of Arizona. This was basically the legislature created this enabling legislation allows cities to have these types of properties registered. It gives us a tool to help regulate and stay on top of where these are located. And while the fiscal impact is not very big, it does give us basically a database to keep track of these and also ensure that we're not having multiple issues with them. I'm going to go ahead and call on Tina Moline, our finance director, to give a brief report on this item before you.
Welcome, Ms. Moline.
Good evening, Vice Mayor. Good evening, council members. The summary stated it very well. Mr. Miller stated it very well also, but I would like to share that the ordinance has been in effect since October 1st. And while we are trying to educate our public on what's required of them, we won't be enforcing the ordinance until January 1st. And so we're holding a workshop in November. Late November, for those that are interested in learning more. We'll be issuing a press release and posting a social media post to encourage property owners and property managers to attend so that they can learn more and become compliant. We have had a couple of handfuls of property managers already approach us and ask us about the process, so we're encouraged by that, and I just wanted to provide you with some background information. So with that, we would ask for approval of the resolution at hand this evening.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Moline? Any comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to approve Resolution 5475. I'll take a second.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to new business. Item 6A, approve the lease purchase of two 2025 Peterbilt 520 solid waste trucks, and resolution number 5478, providing for authorization to enter into a lease purchase and escrow agreement with Zions Bank Corporation to finance the trucks. The solid waste rate study adopted by the council in April of 2021 provided phased replacements of aging refuse trucks utilizing lease purchase programs. In fiscal year 2023-2024, 4 truck replacements were approved. 2 of the trucks have already been ordered. The other 2 are available from Rush Truck Center utilizing Zions Bank Corporation's lease purchase program. The cost of the trucks is $917,182.95. Staff recommends approval. Manager Miller?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and call on both our Public Works Director, Rob Owen, who can talk a little bit about the trucks and the proposed use of these. Obviously, we know it's for solid waste, but also our Finance Director, Tina Moline, who can go into the lease purchase and how that will work. So with that, did I not see Rob? I thought I saw him earlier. Okay. Well, Tina, you can certainly come in and talk. Why don't you come up to the podium and kind of talk about the lease purchase? And there were some questions I know from the public and at least one council member about the lease purchase and how that might work. So if you can go into the mechanics of that.
Sure, absolutely. So as part of the solid waste rate study, when we conducted that a couple of years ago, one of the major components of that study was the replacement of our solid waste trucks. And because they are so expensive, over $400,000 for a truck, the lease purchase program at the time seemed like the best solution. It's better for ratepayers. They don't have the ups and downs of rates, and it's more equitable across the board. And so we've been utilizing that program for our solid waste trucks and for other vehicles for that matter. We have several financing agencies that we utilize. Zions Bank Corporation is one of those. We've utilized Enterprise. We've also utilized another agency called NCL. So anytime that we reach out for financing rates, we reach out to those three agencies to ensure that we're getting a competitive rate. Zions Bank Corporation has, over the last year and a half or so, been the lowest rate. Our borrowing costs on this particular purchase will be 5.1%, which was 1% lower than the second lowest rate from a financing agency. So it will be leased over a 7-year period. The estimated useful life of the vehicles are 10 years. So the payments will be, I think, about $150,000 a year over that period. Yeah, so we'll be paying on each vehicle just under $100,000 in interest.
Counselors, any questions for Ms. Moline? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion.
All right, we have a motion. I'll entertain a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, moving on to item 6B, discussion and possible direction to staff regarding a recreation event center. During the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget work session, the City Council expressed an interest in building an event center either as a standalone facility or as a joint facility to be shared with the future planned recreation center. City staff will report on the tours and conference. Some council members and staff attended and seek further direction from council. Manager Miller?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. So this will be a tag team approach as well. So we're going to have our Parks and Recreation Director and our Finance Director jointly present this report to you tonight. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Meerman.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. So I will handle most of the really fun stuff, the recreation stuff, and we'll let Tina handle all the challenging areas. So we'll get started on that. And, basically, the background, basically, this was identified in our Parks Master Plan as a need for a recreation center. And it's been in the 5-year capital project for $15 million and $100,000 for land, $85,000 for design and construction of $15 million. The funding source is cash reserves, and general obligation bond would be needed. And the project's on hold for consideration of doing an event center and a recreation center combined. This is a list basically that was put together by our Parks Recreation Leadership Team, the superintendent level people, assistant superintendent level people, of what we feel like our needs are for a recreation center. And basically, it's approximately 120,000 square feet, 3 gymnasiums that could be opened up into one big gymnasium for big events and be divided up into 3 full-size gymnasiums for our adult basketball leagues, youth sports leagues, volleyball, and all the recreation events that we have, the sports leagues and things. And there would be a walking track or running track around the whole area is what we envision. And like I mentioned, or we will be mentioning, we did visit some recreation centers, and we've seen a lot of these amenities in these facilities. Large multi-purpose area that could be divided into 3 separate rooms, large rooms too, and could be used for weddings and things like that. An industrial-sized kitchen for events like that as well. A couple of dance rooms. We have a really, really good dance program in our department, and right now we use a recreation center that we have, which is a small area by the Kingman, by Centennial Park, basically. So a toddler area, basically summer camp area for our summer camp that we have right now. We host a lot of these things in the schools, and we have a lot of challenging situations with the IGAs we have at the schools. we get a lot of use out of Kingman Unified School District facilities for our basketball leagues, and but we still have challenges with that. Sometimes they will have something not scheduled, and we'll have it, and then we'll find out the day of that they've got something else planned in there. So we have to reach out to all of our coaches and everything and tell them that it's been canceled and things like that. So there's some real challenges with it that I think this event center or the recreation center would really solve a lot of those issues. Basically, the rest of it would be office space and locker rooms, restrooms, and things like that. So I'll move on. And earlier in July, I guess it was, we had a tour. Councilmember Walker and Mayor Watkins, Tina Moline, myself, and former city manager Ron Fogg toured these facilities, the Cottonwood Recreation Center, and I've been over there a couple different times and met with them. Really, really good information I think we got there at both facilities, really. And then Tina and Manager Fogg and I think some of the other team attended a convention, sports entertainment facilities conference in July as well. So Tina would be able to answer any questions that were brought up from that. And I guess the next steps, what we would like to see is support from council to hire a consultant to perform a needs assessment and see what we need and what all's available out there, and conduct a feasibility study, basically. So, and then come back and share that with council for further direction is what we would like to see. And I'll let Tina jump in here and talk about.
I was actually just going to pop back a slide and give a little bit more detail on what we heard from the Prescott Valley Finley Toyota Center, from their operations staff, as well as from Cottonwood's operations staff. And then also, let's see, and then also share a little bit about the conference. And I know Councilman Walker was in attendance. He might have something he wants to add on that too, but some really interesting ideas and information. So let's see, let me try to just get back there real quick. There we go. So we met with the Parks and Recreation Director at the Cottonwood facility. It had everything that Mike's talking about, that our recreation center, or his ideas and his team's ideas for the recreation center, also have. What we heard from them, one of the first questions that we did ask, and I'm sure we're all aware that that community centers don't necessarily fund themselves, and that there are subsidies from the general fund for that. It's for the Cottonwood Recreation Center specifically, they said that they recover about 65% of their costs with all of their amenities. So definitely an important point to bring up. And when we met with the Prescott Valley's Finley Toyota Event Center, we actually met with the contractor who manages the operations and heard some of the events that they hold there, and that some of the revenues that they collect. But I actually reached out to Prescott Valley themselves to find out a little bit more about how they fund the center. And so originally it was purchased or constructed by a private organization, and that organization went into bankruptcy. And so in 2017, Prescott Valley ended up borrowing the money to pay for the facility. They borrowed just over $16 million for the facility, and they're making 20 years of debt service payments. And then they also borrowed $2 million because there were some serious capital improvements that needed to be made to the facility. So they are still paying on that debt. And when I talked to them and asked them about subsidies from the general fund, they shared that yes, they are subsidizing the general fund. In 2022, they actually subsidized it over $2 million. I asked about the sales tax revenue, that maybe that how that offsets. And they said they don't have the dollar amount that's generated specifically because of the facility, but they know that the amount that they are collecting, or they were confident in the amount that they were collecting, still required a subsidy from the general fund. So same as a recreation center or a community center, it's about what you want to offer the community. It's not always going to break even. So those were some findings from our visits at the two centers. And then the conference was really great. It provided some ideas on how we would want to move forward with some sort of event center. And what we heard in every single session was that a feasibility study is probably the very first step to ensure that before we invest millions and millions of dollars, is it something that our community can withstand, right? And all of the revenues that we would generate, can we sustain funding that? So that was the very first step. They also talked about some grant opportunities. They offered some consultants' names, so certainly some great resources, which is why I think our next steps would be, we would like to hire a consultant, so someone to perform a feasibility study for the event center, or potentially, depending on what you're thinking, to hire a consultant to perform a needs assessment for the actual recreation center. The master plan estimated that the cost of a needs assessment would be about $45,000. And what we're finding on feasibility studies is that they're anywhere from 0.5% to 1% of what the actual event center would cost. So we're estimating anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, just depending on what the council's direction is with that.
Do you have anything to add, Councilor Walker? Thank you, Ms. Moline.
You're welcome.
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
No, I would just add that they're great tours. The Cottonwood facility, there was tons of people using it. It was a very nice facility. The Prescott Valley Center was, they have a arena football team. They used to have hockey. They have concerts there all the time. It was very interesting to hear, the kind of events it draws. And then on the conference in July, like Tina Moline said, it was very educational. Everyone we talked to was like, have you done a feasibility study? So that's something we have to do first if we want to look at that.
Okay.
Before anybody will talk to us.
And that was one of my questions was, we do have funds in the budget under this category, right? CIP funds for planning or a design.
Under the recreation center capital project, yep, we definitely do.
We have about 100,000?
We have 100,000 for land and $850,000 for design, so certainly we can.
Okay.
We can maneuver those monies to accommodate a study.
Okay, perfect. Councilor Staley?
So what Mr. Mearsman is talking about is a rec center, right? But then there's this event center. These are two different things, or they can be combined. Can you give me,
So I can share what we learned at the conference.
Yeah.
So when we were at the conference, there was one city, Cary, North Carolina, that got up and spoke and shared that they were one of the only cities that they were aware of that had they haven't constructed it yet. It's still in the design process, but that is a joint community center and event center. So we didn't hear that it was something that that is out there. It sounds like it's maybe a new concept, but Cary, North Carolina did share their plan and their concept with us.
what did that sort of look like?
Well, it was a very large. They're 175,000 population right outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. So definitely a larger scale sort of facility, several hundreds of millions of dollars to construct. But they did have basketball courts. It was basically split up for community center and then the event center portion. It was a very interesting plan.
So you're asking us tonight to decide between one or the other and to move forward?
We're asking for some direction, right, Mr.
Yeah,
Miller?
so we're asking really if you are interested in both of these, we can go forward and go ahead and do a needs assessment and also the feasibility. Needs assessment would be for the recreation center, and then the feasibility study would be for the event venue. So
As two different projects.
As two different projects. And the concern I have is you will find that there might be firms that do needs assessments specifically for recreational types of uses. And then you might find those that do feasibility studies for both sports and entertainment type venues. And I think it'd be very difficult to get like one size fits all that has like maybe first part will be the needs assessment for a rec center and part two would be event. I think we're really talking two different animals here, and I think we really should proceed on separate tracks, but we're trying to get direction from you tonight. If you're interested in us doing both of those, or one or the other, it's open for discussion with you tonight.
Can you explain why we need a needs assessment for the rec center? Because I think that's already been identified as part of our Parks Master Plan, hasn't it?
That
So-
was a need, yes.
Yeah, so what are we paying for
So,
in this needs assessment?
So the one thing that, having been through this before with other cities that have gone through this, so one of the things that it's always important is to go back to your stakeholders, your user groups of the facility that we're talking about. Find out what their needs are, what their, the amount of facility and usage and what we really need to design for. So those are really important because you really want to have public input on that. Staff has done a really good job. I've been very pleased with that. So maybe some of that would be taken into consideration by the firm conducting the needs assessment. Also, the other part of that is having surveys and other public involvement besides the stakeholder groups. So I'm thinking stakeholder groups would be like youth sports and maybe adult leagues, and also probably special interest class instructors and also people that take advantage of that. So part of it is, in today's world, you always want to just hear from the public and what is it that they would like to see. And then they would then, the firm would kind of look at what the possibilities might be, and then you might have to then bring that back, and we may have to scale it back because maybe what they've come up with is a larger than necessary type facility. But I would agree with you. I think that the staff has done a lot of work, but when I was looking at the square footage and having like 3 basketball courts, I thought, you know, that may be something that maybe might be a little bit overkill. So that's why a needs assessment would be very important. And council would also participate in that as well. It wouldn't just be the stakeholder groups that use the facilities, but it'd also be things like your Parks and Rec Commission would also be involved, and also the council.
Vice Mayor Samley, I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge that Mayor Watkins has joined us via Zoom.
Welcome, Mayor. Thank you, Annie.
So if we're just talking about public outreach, can't we do that? I mean, can't we hold public meetings and send out digital surveys and save the money on the needs assessment?
So a lot of the needs assessment, it's more than just that. It will help us cost out what the facility should be and what the likely cost per square foot will be and what the square footage should be. And so they can do some preliminary work to help us figure out what this project should be costed out at. So it's more than just trying to determine what it should consist of. It's also doing what I would call the programmatic and preliminary, I don't want to say preliminary design, but the programmatic design of this building. And then they can come up with some cost estimates. So we will have a better idea what this thing will cost.
If I could, at our Parks Master Plans meetings, which I know several of you attended, we did get a lot of really good stakeholder input about recreation centers and the need for it. So, but I do agree totally that we really, even though I do think we need 3 gymnasiums, but and my staff does, but I think you will get really a lot of really good information from the needs assessment, and I think it really is the smart thing to do.
So I remember those meetings. It's been a few years, but didn't we talk about specifically in those meetings things that we would want in a rec center? So you already have some of that information, don't you?
Well, that's what I was saying. And I would like to say thank you to my department because they did a really good job of getting people out to those. We had some of the best turnouts for those events than the people that did our master plan. They complimented us big time for the great job that we did of getting people there. So we did get a lot of really good input, I think, from the community. Cost to it. So, and we could do it in a phased idea too. And, you know, we even talked about doing the recreation center like right at Centennial Park maybe, and then putting a dome over the pool that we have and things like that. So we've talked about a lot of different things, but we have 2 aquatic facilities in a city this size. It's kind of challenging to say we need another one. So I think, and Cottonwoods has a very nice aquatic facility too, and there's some challenges with what they have too, I would say. So.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Councilor Savage and then Councilor Eric.
Hello. Question, actually two questions and a statement. Being as close to Laughlin as we are, I personally don't see a need for an event center yet. Not till we get all this commercial retail coming back in and we grow more, but definitely the recreation center. One thing I noticed on the Prescott, they had a sponsor from Toyota. How did that work and what did that do for them?
That came after, I think it came after the fact is what it did, I believe anyways. It seemed like they talked about it, I think, and I don't know.
It didn't have anything to do with initial funding for
No,
sponsorship
I don't think it
or
did.
anything
I
like
think
that?
they.
It's an annual.
Right, annual.
It's an annual
thing is-
sponsorship.
right.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was too.
All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Counselor Eric?
Yes, hi. Do the assessments determine the location, or do you have places in mind for these already?
Well, we've talked about areas to possibly have it, and we were originally, when we first started doing this, as a matter of fact, when it was pulled, when the council budget work session was, we were doing a request for qualifications from architects, and we were going to have that be part of the architect to help us decide where it goes. And the former city manager and myself, I think, we had hoped to do it on property already owned by the city, or something that maybe we could work out with the county, where we're not spending money for land, and we could have that money go toward a better recreation center. So that was kind of what our hope was. So we have looked at several areas in our city that we own the property already, and possibly those areas, but, you know, I think in a needs assessment, it would really, that would be worked out pretty good too, I think, so.
And then just to clarify, a recreation center would be more for the public, for recreational events, like community leagues and stuff like that. It would require an upkeep, and it'd be a cost to the city, whereas an event center would be more for ticket sales and events and maybe a semi-professional team, and it has potential to be profitable in the future, correct?
I would say,
Based on what we're finding and based on what we heard at the conference too that we went to, there wasn't a single one of them that said that they were profitable.
Thank you, Tina and Mike. That's all from me.
All right, thank you. Did they say they were breaking even?
They did not say they were breaking even either.
One could hope. I do appreciate what Counselor Staley said, you know, why the needs assessment. But I feel like we've had a lot change and we're on the precipice of a lot more change. So I think that needs to be considered in the needs assessment. The other thing that I just would like to see, I know you said it's not traditional for them to do both, but I really feel like if we're going to look at them wholeheartedly for different reasons, that the consultants, they need to talk to each other, or we need to find one that can do both in some fashion, because we definitely don't want to swing in one direction or the other without having all of our information.
If I may, Vice Mayor, just for the clarification, I think what I might have said confused you, and what I was trying to get at is the firms that do these types of work, they're completely different. They're niche. So the niche would be like the event venue, you know, feasibility studies would be done by firms that look at maybe sporting and entertainment type venues. And that's a completely different animal than when you're looking at maybe recreation centers. So all I was trying to get is we could actually do an ad alt. So basically we can there might be some economies of scale, but we could basically have them either individual firms can submit separately, you know, like the ones that are specialized in the one area versus the other. We can also encourage if firms that might be out there that can do both can go ahead and submit a proposal that includes and encompasses both types of facilities. So, I mean, I think it doesn't hurt to take a look at that and see what we might get back. And we might have, maybe as to your point, maybe the same team might work on both. And so there could be some benefits to that. So I think we can definitely frame the scope of services in the RFP for something like you're describing.
Okay. Well, I mean, there was one community that combined them, so they had to have some kind of design, and I'm sure they had some kind of study. So I'm certain it could be done. I'm in support of this. I think our community's been crying for a recreation center at the very least But it would also be interesting to know, with us sitting right on the I-40, everyone in the entertainment industry has to come through the 40 to get to Las Vegas and over the hill to Laughlin. So why can't we be a stop on that road? So I would be interested in seeing what a feasibility study would do as well. So any other comments?
Vice Mayor? I would support both of these. The needs assessment for the park, I think we do need to do again, because they bring a lot of information to the table, building size, construction cost. I think we get value for the dollar there. The event center, it could be 10 or 15 years out still, but we need to start with a feasibility study. We got to start somewhere. And just because we do that today doesn't mean we're going to start in a year or two, but it gets us a roadmap to where we think we need to be, or maybe the feasibility study comes back, says no, it's not good for you guys. But I think we need to, take that path and at least look at it.
All right. Any other discussion? Councilor Ward? Mayor Watkins? All right.
Vice Mayor, we are good. Thank you. I think you all have asked a lot of great questions, and I appreciate Keith bringing that all up. I mean, I think we do need to look for the future and plan for that, even though we're not ready for an event center right now. But, the way our city is going to grow, I think here quickly, we need to be looking at that.
Councilor Staley?
Yeah, I just have just a couple more things. So the rec center we've been talking about, and one thing we hear over and over is we need more for our families. And, part of our economic development plan in drawing in professionals, we talk about how it's really hard to get doctors here, those kind of things. That's where this rec center comes into play. It's a quality of life item, and it will help boost our city. I can remember years ago, I think he was the city manager he was from Cottonwood, and he came to talk about just what their rec center brought to their small town and how much easier it was to attract people to Cottonwood just based on that rec center. So, that's why I've supported this for a long time, because I see the need without a needs assessment. I see the need there, and I know what it will bring to the community. So I definitely would like to move forward on that. As far as the event center goes, I think I came to this thinking that it was going to be sort of a public-private partnership, and that it would be something that would be self-sustainable, that it would not be a hit to the general plan, or excuse me, the general fund. So that's a little bit disappointing to hear, but I agree that, to have events here would be a great draw, and it would also be a quality of life issue. So it's about what we want to invest in. I wonder if we could try to do a smaller or more limited feasibility study. If this is further out, longer term, we might have to do a second one when we get closer to get updated numbers. So maybe if we do a smaller scope so it isn't as expensive, if that's possible, once we start digging into that. I'd hate to spend 6 figures on something that sits on a shelf for 10 years. You know what I mean? So if we could limit it, get a good idea whether or not, what it would cost us, what it would bring in sales tax, what we could attract here as far as shows, and then, leave it at a smaller scale maybe.
Thank you.
What do you guys think?
Any other comments?
I do. After we do a feasibility study, that might tell us if it's going to be an option to do a private-public partnership on it.
Oh,
Because I've seen one in Boise, Idaho. There's a motel attached to it, and they have a semi-pro hockey team in it.
Okay.
So I mean, it could be a private-public deal. Until we throw it out on the table and start talking about it, we don't know what it could be.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, so I understand what you're suggesting, council member, but I do think that the other council member is correct that the information would be useful for identifying potential public-private partnerships. I also think that maybe we can get a model as to what, if there's inflationary factors, cost escalations, that we could have the model, and over time, if it turned out that it was going to be something that would be recommended 10 years into the future, that we can dust it off easily and use the inflation numbers or the escalator numbers that they would put in there. We could actually put that in the scope so that we wouldn't have to do necessarily a second study, or at least we would have what we would feel very comfortable with in the future.
All right, any other comments? I'll entertain a motion for item 6B.
I'll motion.
All right, we have a motion.
What are we motioning?
Direction.
Yes, so could we just have it?
You want to be
We
specific?
could actually be more specific and just say, if you're interested in doing both the needs assessment and feasibility study, so the needs assessment would be for a recreation center, and the feasibility study would be for a event venue.
All right, Councilor Eric, would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, I would like to motion a needs assessment for a recreation center and a feasibility assessment for an event center.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. All right, department reports. Street payback presentation. Mr. Miller.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. So before you tonight is a staff report on a street payback presentation. You recall that there was some discussion about this previously, but not a lot of detail or research had been done on that. Our city engineer, Phil Allred, will be giving you a report on this particular item. Mr. Allred?
Good evening. So just wanted to have a discussion this evening about what a street payback program might look like. But before we do that, I don't know why this is, there we go. I just want to give a brief overview of what our street development requirements are. And so primarily what governs our street development standards is what we call the street and sidewalk development rules and regulations. So basically, new subdivisions are required to have a permanent access to their development from a paved roadway. So if someone was coming in proposing a subdivision that wasn't close to a paved roadway, they would be responsible to build a paved roadway to their development. That doesn't happen very often. Most everyone's just kind of moving along in line. On a smaller scale for building permits, no building permit can be approved unless the lot or parcel has permanent access from an accepted and maintained street. So basically, that's to help us avoid, and this is particularly geared towards the infill areas, a street that the city isn't currently maintaining. It's a platted right-of-way, but there's no development at all on it, and someone wants to go and build a house on one of the lots in the middle of the block. What this would say is you need to build a road from your property to the nearest paved street. And so really this is geared to make sure that we have a paved and improved road to a new home or building that is being built. Just want to mention that the city does have some dirt roads that we currently maintain. And when a few years ago, when this part was this ordinance was passed, the city made a list of all of our maintained roads, and so anybody that's adjacent to those roads that are already under maintenance by the city don't have to build a road to the nearest paved street, meaning the dirt road is an accepted, maintained roadway by the city. So that was a way to kind of grandfather some of the existing homes into the system. So any lot or parcel that's adjacent to a street that's not maintained shall develop all frontages to the nearest paved street. So that's similar But we just want to make sure that anything that is undeveloped, all frontages are developed in those scenarios. So for new construction of multifamily developments, so that would be a duplex or larger, or a commercial or industrial development, regardless of whether it's a maintained dirt road by the city, they have to do street improvements along their frontage. And then also some redevelopment or remodeling of multifamily, commercial, or industrial properties may be required to improve streets. So basically, there's a trigger in the ordinance that says anything over $20,000, whether it's a remodel or a permit or something of value of $20,000 or more, would trigger the requirements in a redevelopment or remodel scenario. All new roadways are required to meet our minimum city standards, and typically roadways are constructed at the time of development. Seldom do we see someone coming in and building ahead of time. So also just wanted to briefly mention the different types of street classifications that we have. We have minor and major arterial streets, and so these are the larger, more continuous streets that tie two traffic generating areas together. They're intended to promote free flow of traffic. Collectors, as the name would imply, it collects traffic from residential or other areas and funnels them to arterial streets. So it provides passage to local streets and conveys traffic to the arterial street. And then the local street provides access, direct access to properties. And usually these are shorter streets ending in T intersections, cul-de-sacs, or some other type of way. Just want to mention half streets. This occurs when developers only control the property on one side of the street. And when these types of things come into play, they're designed to ensure that at a minimum 2 through traffic lanes are constructed. And so, with half streets, it can be challenging because a developer may not control the land on the other side. And so there's some consideration there that we give when we're looking at it. And, if there's reasonable ability for the other half to be constructed as that side develops, we also take that into consideration. So I wanted to outline a few challenges that we experience when, and particularly in infill construction scenarios. So there's a lot of scenarios where a block or a street has multiple property owners and a developer needs to construct a roadway. And oftentimes that will require them to construct the roadway across someone else's property. And so the potential solution to that is to have a payback system to collect a prorated cost when that lot that was previously crossed with street improvement develops. And so that would provide a potential repayment to a developer in the future that had to build something across someone else's property. Another challenge that we have been is in existing streets, someone developed the half-street improvements, but there's some language that isn't clear enough in our regulations that would trigger the completion of the other half when someone comes in and starts constructing on the other side. So the solution there would be to just revise the street regulations to make it really, really clear that the other side needs to be completed if those half-street improvements were done by someone else on the other side. So with that, we've kind of talked, and we have a framework that we want to discuss with you in terms of the payback agreement or proposal. We're suggesting we only do this for infill development. new subdivisions and whatnot. I think the standards are clear, and so I think this is really geared towards an infill type scenario. We're thinking it would be best to exclude arterial streets just because we're not sure how the development fees and all that would come into play. And so we're suggesting we just do it for the collectors and local streets. We're suggesting that it be available for both commercial and residential development. We're suggesting that there's some sort of agreement that is signed by the developer that constructs the improvements. We want to set a time limit to say, hey, you need to get this done within 60 days after the project's done. Term of the agreement would be 20 years. We're just kind of modeling that after our water and sewer program that we have right now, so we want to be consistent. The payback will be based on a certified cost after deducting the developer's share of the cost. So obviously, we want to make sure that they deduct the frontage that they're benefiting from. And so it would just be the areas that are going across someone else's property. Reimbursement, we're thinking would be based on a per linear foot basis, but we could leave it open for other equitable methods of spreading the expenses out, but that gets a little tricky. So I think primarily we're looking for a linear foot basis. Obviously, we want to make sure that the expenses are reasonable, and so we would require multiple quotes to make sure that the developer is getting the best price for the work if we're going to start collecting money from other people that will come in later. So we just want to make sure that there's an effort to make sure that the cost is reasonable. The payback would be collected on all new development at the time of development. We wouldn't do it before then. And then we're suggesting that the payback would be collected on any redevelopment or remodel of any property, which the improvement costs exceed $20,000, just kind of mirroring some of the previous language that I mentioned. So this would give an opportunity, again, for a developer that is going across someone else's property to add another trigger in there to have someone who's benefiting from that participate in that cost. And then just a quick note on the Half Street revision proposal. Like I said, we'll just propose a change in our ordinance to make sure that if a street already has half street improvements, that the other half of the improvements will be required at the time of development. And again, we would suggest that this trigger, if there's anything that a redevelopment or remodel that costs $20,000 or more, and would only apply, this would only apply to the frontage of the lot or parcel being developed, plus the necessary tapers to tie into the existing roadway. So with that, those are my thoughts. Certainly looking for some input and your thoughts in terms of what next steps might look like. We'll take your input and come back with an ordinance that would address both items or one of items, whatever you would like. But we definitely would need to come back and have more discussion as we draft an ordinance to address these items.
Thank you, Phil. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions, counselors? Counselor Staley?
Okay, so you're talking about for infill only, but at the last council meeting, we approved a new subdivision off of Airway that will have a half street. So are you telling me that that half street can't be made whole and we do the payback on it? Because it's a subdivision, not an infill.
Correct. So like the half street that was being built was, I believe, on not Rutherford, but what was the other one on the other side? Whatever the one on the east side was, for Swing Street. Yeah, for whatever reason, I forgot the name. So there is potential for when there's development on the other side for them to come in. So My suggestion would be to still allow the half-street improvements for a subdivision and not have this apply to it. We can certainly look at it, but I think it starts to get tricky, and so I probably would need to give it a lot more thought. We want to try to somehow include new subdivisions into this type of program.
So that half street is how this conversation started, because that developer is willing to pave the whole street, both sides, if there's a payback, because then it'd be worth it for him to do the whole thing. And that is in our best interest. And these half streets are ridiculous and they need to stop. So if there is a way, if there's any way to add those side streets, I don't know, I'm calling that a side street, off of, because he has to pave the whole subdivision. But to get in there, there's these additional streets. We should include that in the payback program. We should do everything we can to stop half streets.
So are you looking for it to be mandatory or just an option for them?
We could try it as an option at first to see how it goes, but ultimately what we've talked about, and multiple councils since I've been here have talked about, how do you stop these half streets and how do you get all these extra roads paved so we don't have dirt streets in the city? And that is a hurdle we've just never been able to get over. So here you have a developer who wants to try it out, and we're going to create a whole program, and then he can't even try it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we can try to come back with something. I just think it would take a little more thought. Like I said, I think it could get tricky, but we can.
Can you tell me why? Just give me
Well,
some
so
reasons.
I think one is going to be the cost, right? It depends on the size of the development, but I think if we ask for the whole street, that makes, particularly on the perimeter streets, they're generally bigger. So I think that's a larger hurdle. The other thing that I'm just not sure how it would look and is there inevitably will be some that they might need more right-of-way or something like that. And are we going to ask someone to go and purchase additional right-of-way from someone else or require that? So I guess in my mind, I'm thinking maybe it's we're trying to mandate that they do the full width street, but if we're making an option, maybe it's less complicated. But my mind's going in the direction of if we start saying you have to do the full width, I think that starts to bring in some challenges.
Can I jump? That'll bring in some legal challenges because it could be an exaction issue, some taking issues, so that's where we start running into some legal concerns. If we require it. If it's a voluntary program, I think we can probably work something into that, but yeah, we just want to be careful about forcing above and beyond what you can legally.
And are you fine with that if it's voluntary?
Yeah, I mean,
See, does that resolve?
let
some
us
of your
think it through,
concerns?
but yeah, on the surface, I think that's probably fine.
All right. Counselors, I have some stuff, but I'll defer to any of you.
I would say let's look at that situation as an option, and maybe we'll have a developer come in and want to try it, and we'll see how it works.
All right. So I have some questions and I have a scenario, and I'm hoping you tell me that this solves the scenario. So we have a developer, a builder that buys a street, a whole street. He has to pave half plus 8, correct?
Okay, good.
Currently,
Well,
on that side of the street.
if they only buy one half of the street, yes, half plus 8.
Okay.
If they
Right,
own.
they're buying this side of the street.
Okay.
Okay? There's a developer on the other side, the opposite side of the street, that purchases 3 or 4 of the 6 lots that are there. The others are undeveloped. Is there no trigger? Is that 20,000? No, that's not a trigger to have to pave the street currently?
No, the 20,000 is limited to multifamily and commercial and industrial. So,
Okay, but you are proposing.
We're proposing to.
that be a trigger.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, in that case, if the land's undeveloped, it would trigger it regardless. The 20,000 is intended for redevelopment or remodels.
Okay, all right. Because I just don't want developers to take it so literal that, I mean, I don't know how we got here because we have I do know how we got here, but we have these streets that are developed, and then you have a developer that goes in and buys the other side of the street and then says that, oh, this developer did the 1/2+8, so I'm good to go. And that's how we got here. So if you're telling me that this is going to correct that, so if that developer buys, because we've got a lot of older subdivisions, we've got a lot of infill. There are a lot of proposed, this person buys 6 lots over here and they buy 3 lots over here. And so we're going to run into this. So I want to know if it also affects older subdivisions that have been approved, if this will also be something going forward that will correct that, and it will correct the existing issue where we have somebody buy 3 lots over here and develop.
So I think it will, but I'll look to Carl and his stellar ordinance writing to help us with that.
Okay. I mean, those are my hot buttons. I think that we need to take care of our city, and part of it is infrastructure. And we talk about infrastructure. And if builders are going to build and they're going to take that so literal, we need to take that interpretation away.
We need to make it super
And
clear.
we need to make it super clear that if you're going to develop on this street, it's going to be a paved street. So, okay, so that's my passion for the night.
Okay.
Any other comments? Mayor, do you have anything?
Well, you actually, Phil covered it. And Vice Mayor, you mentioned it too, is we keep on saying half street earlier in the discussion, but it's like you said, it's half street plus 8. But really the best solution, as Vice Mayor you mentioned and Councilor Saley mentioned, is just have the whole street paved and do a payback. That's the ideal situation.
And I just want to clarify, the +8 is to allow us enough width to get 2 lanes of traffic. That's why it's there, is to make sure that when something does get built, at least 2 lanes of traffic can flow.
Right, yeah. So I want to take any ambiguity away.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much for the report. Oh, don't
Sorry,
sit down,
sorry.
Phil.
It's okay.
Counselor Staley has one last question.
Sorry. I just want to make sure you said that those streets that are currently maintenanced and they're dirt, and so they get away with, so we let them build a house on that street and not pave any of it, right? This new rule would impact those streets. We're not going to allow new homes to go on dirt roads and never pave them.
So the current practice and the way that the ordinance is written now is we're not requiring that. If that's something that you want to tackle, we can go there, but I wasn't going to propose that. So the streets that are currently under city maintenance, my mind was we would keep that the same.
Okay.
But if you guys want to do something different,
I'm glad I asked, because I thought infill means they're infilling
Yeah.
on those dirt roads, and this is how we get them paved.
yeah, the challenge that you're going to run into is you're going to get someone that owns just one lot. And they want to build on that one lot, and we're going to ask them to pave a few hundred feet all the way to the paved street. And so for these types of scenarios, it becomes difficult for those people to do that just for one lot.
In that situation, we could have a fund, couldn't we, the way we have our sewer fund, where we have some money and we do a loan and we get paid back, basically, when everyone starts to build on the street. So that one house, that one person isn't so heavily impacted as a developer who has 5-6 lots on one side. Is that possible?
I mean, yeah, if you're wanting to go that direction, you could. I would just note that the cost would be a lot larger than what we were looking at for the sewer.
We're just,
So
we're
talking
never gonna get these streets
yeah.
paved if we don't do something bold, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's other options for residents in areas of maintained roads to do an improvement district or something like that, but
they never do.
But they never do because
it's expensive.
It costs a lot of money. So.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm done now, I'm sorry. Just, and I'm glad I asked because it did not include those.
Yeah.
So that's something for everybody to think about.
We can't wait to see what you bring back to us.
All right.
Thank you, Phil.
Vice Mayor and Council, good feedback. We really appreciate hearing from you tonight on this, and you will definitely see us coming back with some proposals on dealing with this. As you can see, it's clearly not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve all of our issues, but it's one of probably many tools that we need to employ to try to address our streets needs. So on that, we'll go ahead and have Phil come back up for the next item, which is
Thank you, Manager Miller.
Sure.
Rancho Santa Fe and Kingman Crossing traffic interchange update. Phil?
I'm going to apologize, I don't have my little graphic with me, but not much has changed since 2 weeks ago or whenever we met last, but I do have a couple of updates. So for the Kingman Crossing interchange, we've started receiving comments, or our engineer has started receiving comments back from ADOT on their plans, and I think we have most of them back from ADOT, and so they're planning a comment resolution meeting sometime next week to discuss all the comments from ADOT and other people that have commented, and try to work through those and then start working on their final plans. And so that's for Kingman Crossing. For Rancho Santa Fe, I did confirm that the engineer submitted to ADOT on October 23rd. And I've confirmed that ADOT has them, and I've confirmed that ADOT's received our payment. And then, and just as an update, I think I mentioned we were going to redo our independent cost estimate. I'm anticipating seeing that back hopefully next week. So, but that's all I have in terms of updates.
Counselors, any questions, comments? Mayor, do you have anything?
Nothing. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Phil. All right, we're moving on to item number 8 on the agenda, announcements by mayor, council members, and city manager. I'll start with you, Manager Miller.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So the mayor and council are familiar with these development forums. I believe we held 2 of these already this year. As part of that, there were a number of follow-up action items that the staff was able to start working on. So I wanted to give an update to the development community and to the public and also to the council tonight on where we stand on a number of those items. So starting with November 14th, we will be holding a work session. So a week from tonight, we will be in here, and our community development manager will be giving you an update on the zoning codes. These were very near and dear to the development community. Some of these were antiquated and some needed to be updated. So we're going to be bringing that back to you for your discussion. We have what I would call, it's broken down into 2 different parts. The first part is what I call the routine housekeeping ones. Those are the zoning codes that are referencing other sections of the city code. And then there are also those that are just, they're like Scribner errors that we just need to make some corrections on. Then the others are more substantive that we've heard from the development community. And so we're going to share those with you and then try to get your feedback. And then those will go back through planning and zoning, and then we'll come back to council for action after planning and zoning has recommended approvals or changes. Then the other thing we're going to have is next week, you recall that the former city manager had arranged to have an evaluation of the development services functions and operation. The consultant will be giving a presentation to the council next week at that work session. Then on December 12th, there will also be another work session, and that will include a whole bunch of items. That's going to include the discussion on Arizona Revised Statute 9-835. It has to do with licensing timeframes. Also, discussion regarding the creation of a policy that clearly defines the steps and timelines of approving and recording final plats of subdivisions, discussion on adoption of an early permitting process or expedited permitting process, discussion regarding electronic plan submissions, which also kind of ties into the building permit software that we have acquired and we're about ready to implement. And then finally, also a discussion regarding the intended purpose of the Board of Appeals. So I think, as you can see by that list I just gave you, the staff has been very busy. The council, clearly, having provided direction to us to come back to you on these, has been also very busy. We do not have we would have probably had a development forum this month, but we will not be having one. We're anticipating we'll be doing that in January. And that would probably tie nicely because we're getting closer to probably wanting to do the implementation of the electronic building permit system. So, but I wanted to provide that update to you because I know that people in the community, particularly the development community, have been asking council for status updates, so I wanted to do that tonight. That's all I have. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilor Walker?
Nothing tonight.
Councilor Savage?
Nothing tonight.
Councilor Ward? Councilor Staley? Councilor Eric?
I attended the MUC meeting and introduced myself as liaison, and it was good.
Good, thank you. Mayor Watkins?
I just want to remind everybody, of course, of the Veterans Day Parade this Saturday at 10 o'clock, starting downtown. And of course, I know Councilor Saley suggested this, or I think in Councilor and Vice Mayor Samley, about inviting, besides just this, the city council, we're going to have a trailer ride-on, but we also have invited veterans that work for the city to ride on that trailer also. And I think that's a great idea. And I just once again want to bring that to the attention of everybody to announce that. That's a great thing to support our veterans. So, and as always, as I always mention, just want to thank all the citizens who, you see their small acts of service they do serving their fellow man. And I just am always appreciative of that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight. Council requests for future reports and updates? Councilor Walker? Councilor Savage?
Nothing.
Councilor Ward? Staley? Councilor Eric?
Nope.
Mayor Watkins?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right, great. We are adjourned.